I'll drink myself to death and think about my tragic past when I was disassembled by a guy who does not have a face. Volume 3 of Guardians of the Galaxy tells a story. All right, reading from the synopsis. Peter Quill, still reeling from the loss of Gamora, must rally his team around him to defend the universe along with protecting one of their own. A mission that, if not completed successfully, could quite possibly lead to the end of the Guardians as we know them. So the whatever entry, the 30th, the 31st, the 28th entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the feature film section comes in at a quite long 2.5 hour long runtime and has been received incredibly well so far on Letterboxd. It's currently the highest rated of all of the MCU films. I assume that's just going to come down over time. I would be surprised if they would keep this at a 4.2, which would put it outside of the Letterboxd 250, but not too far. So I feel like it's got to come down. It's a good movie. I can already say that, but it's not that great. On IMDb, it's currently also really high at an 8.4. I don't know where it puts that, but it definitely puts it in the IMDb top 250, I think. And then on Metacritic, a bit more, I guess, of a mixed thing there with a 65 rating. It's also the highest when it comes to the budget so far with 250 million. Can't say anything about the gross yet, but it seems to be doing quite well at the box office, something that the MCU has needed desperately after a couple of flops in the most recent movies. And we are gonna talk about spoilers in a bit for this. We're gonna talk about general stuff right away. But Lachlan, what did you make of the movie overall? Did it have some sick needle drops, some sick action, or was it a bit of a miss with too much animal cruelty?
It was great to finally enjoy an MCU movie from start to finish.
Yeah,
it was great to see this thing that was held so high and could do no wrong to fall so far, but to see what a competent filmmaker who clearly gives no fucks to what Marvel wants to do, because he now works for DC Studios.
Yeah.
It's great to see what James Gunn could do with this final outing of Guardians of the Galaxy, because it's the most fun in cinemas since Endgame. Ewan, you told me that, and I was like, nah, I don't know, man. That's got to be a big shoe to fill.
Yeah.
And Ewan, you were correct. I agree. I think it is one of the most fun films since Endgame, and it's also and said, like, I'm not including other films outside the MCU, but there are definitely other films I've enjoyed since Endgame. I want to clarify.
We only review
holy fuck! I just said that, I'm just fucking claiming every film is shit since Endgame.
Yeah.
No. Okay, sorry. Ewan, I need you to redact everything I just said in the past, you said 5 minutes.
It's been the best time since Endgame. Which is fine. You just need to add to context.
No, it's not. I need people to know that I'm only talking about MCU movies. I am not talking about every film to come out since Endgame, okay? Because there have been great films since Endgame.
Yeah.
But Guardians of the Galaxy is the best MCU film to come out since Endgame. There have been great MCU films, but nothing has hit so well as Guardians 3. Ewan, I think that's plenty of praise from me.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to say?
Needle drops. It's the best movie does needle drops since, I guess, Guardians 2. And then before that, Guardians 1. I hate it. In other movies, like in the Super Mario Bros. Movie, where you do have a lot of bass things to use music from the games, right? But here, it just kind of fits. It doesn't feel like an emulation. It doesn't feel like... It obviously has, some pull that it tries to open... the whole movie opens up with an acoustic version of Creep. And it doesn't fully work for me at times because it's so over the top. But it's like... Whenever I feel like, no, this is dumb. I don't want... And I was like, no, I'm right back in. This is funny. This is actually quite enjoyable. And it's just you can turn your brain off and have a great time. And I really like the Guardians franchise. I mean, it's my favorite in the entirety of the MCU. Really, nothing beats it. And it's also the most consistent. I know a lot of people talk shit about the second one, I also really like the second story. Like each of these films, I guess apart from this one, like the first two, it made me cry because I really, really liked the emotional part of it as well. So James Gunn is just really great at balancing a cast of people in here. Although I probably think he does it the least well in this one, just because there's a lot of things that come in and out of the story. But overall, I think if you're looking at for a good time at the theaters, you're looking for a good movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this is the movie to go. This is the movie to go see again if you have not been keeping up with the rest of it, because it's also got no ties to the rest of the story. You basically pick up from Endgame, nothing else is needed, and that's just a breath of fresh air when they don't feel like they got anywhere to lead to. They just kind of are doing like 15 different roads, and this movie just goes, no, fuck that. We're in the universe. We're just here to have like different paints on people and make silly jokes, and that's pretty much it. And I enjoyed it. I think it's pretty funny. I think going in, you also need to see that Christmas special because it does drop basically a bunch of information on you. It's not really overly important apart from, I guess, just the relation between Mantis and Chris Pratt, that they are brothers and sisters, right? That was revealed in that special. And they referenced that a couple of times without explaining it, of course. Although it does kind of feel shoehorned in a bit to like, hey, let's have them say that they are related in this so people know when they reference it later on. But I mean, to me, it's also funny that like whatever Vin Diesel touches kind of becomes like a family. It just can't help himself. It's got to become like a makeshift family. Coming out of it, I think, without getting into specifics just yet, a bunch of criticism that came from people that really didn't like it. They were criticizing this one and also the overall franchise for basically just having over-the-top violence, and here also focusing really a lot on the showcasing the like abuse of Rocket in his backstory here. What did you feel? What do you feel about that? Was it like balanced well, or was it a bit too much?
Look, I mean, criticisms on focusing on animal cruelty. Well, here's the thing: animal cruelty still exists in this world, and you can't say don't do this on screen when it still happens in real life. This is a whole bunch of CG animals. I think I noticed maybe one or two practical animals, but I'm pretty sure the majority of the animals in these scenes are CGI.
Yeah.
Which is a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's something that anyone should be criticizing, though. It's a plot point. It's known since Rocket first came on screen. For anyone who hasn't got a background in the cinematic, not Marvel Cinematic Universe, but the Marvel comics.
No, the cinematic universe overall.
Yeah.
Marvel
overall.
is cinema. There's nothing else. That's why this
There's
is the
nothing
greatest
else.
film
This is
since
all original
Endgame.
content.
Yeah.
Rocket we know that he was not taken care of and he was a bit of an experiment and tortured, and that's just a known fact. And if you didn't expect there's some sort of cruelty to come out of that, then I don't know. But the over-the-top violence, I mean, I wouldn't even say this movie is that violent. I have seen
me neither.
Other films, especially other MCU films, that I think are more violent than this film. So I just think it's a bunch of people who just are trying to find something wrong with this film and focusing on that. There's honestly no credit to any of those debates at all.
I feel like it's also just, if you are sensitive to that sort of thing yourself, then it could like be that, I don't know, that you don't want to see it on screen in a cinematic way over and over again. So I understand where it's coming from, but I don't get it like really overall in a sense of like.
But the thing is, Ewan, the same thing can be said with absolutely any film at any point in that film, right? Oh man, I was when I was younger, I fell into a vat of worms, and I don't want to go see Dune because it triggers me. It's like anything can be triggering to some people, but those people, most people should understand that their fear and their issues should not affect something else brought on screen,
Mhm.
especially when it's a fictional. It's about fucking aliens in space, bro, and we're gonna focus on animal cruelty. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Mhm.
Should we not be concerned about the fact that there was a giant or organism? I almost says orgasm. An organism built in space
Yeah.
that
That looks like
it's a living thing. It's a living
Yeah.
fucking thing, and they cut into it, and people live
Mhm.
in it. Like, come on, really?
Yeah.
And they live in the brain. They live in the brain of a dead god. They live in the head of a dead god. Like, should we not be concerned about dead gods and
Yeah.
what happens to their
There's-
carcasses? Should we not like?
Yeah, I
See
know
what
it
I
gets
mean
a
with
lot.
these points of
That's
difference?
like what James Gunn also kind of does well. That like kind of on the edge of really raunchy humor. He's done it like since I think Super, like that movie.
Yeah.
I just quite like his humor, and if people don't really vibe with that, I guess it's easier to criticize that. I think it's also kind of funny.
Hey,
Yeah, sorry.
no, you go. Mine's not serious.
I think it's also kind of funny that like ultimately you got a villain that's about like destroying entire civilizations and whatever, and you got he's also been really abusive to a animal, right? And it's like here you got entire civilizations that he wipes out, but we care about
Oh yeah.
the rocket. It's like it's funny like how subjective it gets once you focus on that, because ultimately we hate him way more for what he does to Rocket than he does to the entire civilizations. There's no real sympathy that goes that way, and I think that's kind of fun as well, because those like not the ruining of the entire civilizations. I'm sorry, but that the Guardians are so imperfect. They are basically like Gamora is kind of the antithesis, right? Someone who's more brutal, and they are basically trying to be good, but ultimately they're not good at if you look for, like at an objective point. They still kill people and whatever, and it just like is framed differently, and then it's just in slow motion, and then it's cool. And I think that kind of contrast is not something that they are unaware about, and then it's just fun, and you kind of ignore that part of it, and it doesn't need to be something bigger than that. It doesn't need to be consistent in every sort of way. But let's talk about spoilers, Lachlan, and let's talk about our favorite moments. What did you enjoy the most about? What was like your favorite moment of the film?
Little tripod.
A little tripod.
What was my favorite points of the film? Pretty much any needle drop. Man, I just love all of these songs, eh?
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite song, Ewan? I'd love to know. Favorite needle drop?
I don't know. For me, I'm so bad at identifying songs, and I'm just like so in the moment that like unless it's Creep, it doesn't really stand out to me as much, or I don't remember it as vividly. I mean, I love Florence and the Machine. Glad that they got something in there. Bruce Springsteen got one. No, Since You've Been Gone. Actually, such a fun one. I like the Since You've Been Gone one. What was your favorite?
Mine has to be, I guess because it's like a pretty modern song, but San Francisco by the Mowgli's is a really fun upbeat song that I wasn't expecting to be in this movie. So when I heard it, I was like, this is exciting to hear. But this is the first film in a long time where I like the entirety of the film, I basically had my foot tapping with every song.
Yeah.
And that was quite exciting to have. And I guess that's with all of the Guardians stuff. I have been listening to like a playlist with all of the songs in it for the past couple of days since seeing the film.
Yeah.
When it dropped, it was really fun just to tap my foot throughout the film. Just,
Yeah, so I guess the collective of I guess those moments in there. I think to me, what looked the most intriguing out of the trailers was that like sequence where they dress up in different look at different colored spacesuits and jump on that living organism, right? That they are invading to get like I don't know what it was, like some MacGuffin thing. And that whole sequence is really funny. Like the dynamic that they got is used to the fullest. And the radio thing actually got like really like belly chuckles out of me. I was like arching forward and laughing. It was really well done. And you basically just continue on those dynamics that certain characters have. Here you got them as a collective, works really well. But then also just one-off, like Drax and Mantis work great together. And unfortunately, we do get a bit less of like Groot and Rocket because he's sidelined for the entire film. So ultimately, although we technically get like a film about Rocket, didn't feel like Rocket was really part of this movie. Because this brings me to my biggest criticism, which is not the depiction of the animal cruelty, but the amount of basically unnecessary flashbacks we get to that, like, it's basically split. We got like the main timeline and we got the past. And I kind of got the gist of what the past is going for after a while, and I didn't need to see the whole thing play out. What did you think of it? Did you
I
mind
don't
it,
hate
like
the flashbacks of this because it was very small little moments during not so important moments happening with the main storyline.
Yeah.
It's a good use of flashbacks because it does build this sort of hatred of this antagonist who is mostly vacant.
Yeah.
Through the main storyline of the film, except in flashbacks. So MCU doesn't really do great villains that often. Once again, I feel like it's not the greatest villain because it is a killed off villain, never to be worried about again.
Yeah.
Which sucks to have a really good performance. Chukwudi Iwaji, Iwuji, I believe his name is, the High Evolutionary.
Yeah.
Great performance. I actually really enjoyed the god complex this character had. With also at the same time coming down to a human level and just like begging to like understand why are these creatures that I've created smarter than me.
Yeah.
At points, which again was a wicked plot point. But to have your villain not be in the main storyline up until pretty much the last act and only really be in flashbacks and not really do anything too villainy until kind of the end doesn't really build up a great villain, unfortunately. So for me, the biggest letdown of the film is once again, shocker in an MCU film, the villains. They just... Like, while I don't think any of them perform terribly, I feel like we haven't had a bad performance from a villain in an MCU film in a very, very long time.
Yeah.
It just sucks that there's not really a motive that makes me go, yeah, I'd also be like that if I was in their shoes. Because I can't relate to this dude at all. Thanos, I can understand that. And, you know, very early on, MCU villains had some pretty good motives as well, minus a couple of them. But at the same time, the majority of them have been throwaway, and once again, it's just another throwaway villain.
Speaking of that, because he's absent for, at least as a villainous present, he's there from the get-go, technically, with who he sends to get stuff. But what did you make of the inclusion of the Adam Warlock character? Because I think the casting is amazing. Will Poulter is great.
Will Poulter is sick. Adam Warlock is not in this movie though. He's in the movie for 5 minutes. That's it. Yeah. He's only in the movie for 5 minutes, and the entire time he's like sucking on his mum's tit. Like, it is such a underutilization of the character. It's an introduction though. That's the thing. It's an introduction to his character. Why? What?
Don't slice him up, so man. You're making
sorry.
Will Poultry. Okay, let's move on.
Well done. No. Let's not move on because I want you to keep making jokes about Will Poulter's name. Adam Warlock was set up to be in this movie.
Bit more
I get it.
Than
He's
did.
in this movie. And it's unfortunate because I felt that his presence was great. I really like Will Poulter. He's a great actor, and I think he has a really awesome career ahead of him. Yeah. And to play a character like Adam Warlock, who is essentially indestructible, right? Is basically the golden version Captain Marvel of a character, essentially. And also with some interesting motives. Like, I was happy before the end credit scene. I don't want to talk about the end credit scene right now, but I was happy where he was at, where he was at a low point and he came back. Yeah. And I was happy for him to be at that low point for a little bit longer if he's going to get his own solo thing and maybe he gets his own sort of Disney Plus TV show. I was hoping for him, but he kind of came back with the whole confidence thing with the end credit scene. But his character is basically just a okay, we need something to happen. What's going to happen? All right. Adam Warlock comes in and he does X so that Y happens, and then Z will happen because of that. He's basically a Deus Ex Machina of this film. You need something to happen, Adam Warlock will get it done. You need an initial conflict for Rocket to die, Adam Warlock will almost kill him. You need Gamora to be slowed down, send Adam Warlock there. Like it's literally just he's there as a plot device to get things to go where they are, which is good that they're not just making it happen out of the sheer fucking will of the universe. They actually have a person there making conflict happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked Adam Warlock and I like his character and I like Will Poulter. I like to see him continue on in the MCU, but I want to see a little bit more. There's not much to talk about. Again, he's in the movie for 5 minutes.
He does get some sick fighting moments though, but ultimately
he does.
I think the best action still comes from the Guardians when they fight just a bunch of characters. I think that whole sequence, like I said, the Power Rangers sequence I call it, is to me the highlight of the whole movie. And I also think that it packs a really fun cameo from Nathan Fillion, right? Something that's not like overplayed. It works. He just plays a character. There's a bunch of people that have worked with James Gunn before, like Iwuchi, the High Evolutionary, right? He's been in The Peacemaker. He was one of the main characters in that show. Jennifer Holland, which I think is James Gunn's wife, is also in this. So it was nice to see like familiar faces that are just close to James Gunn, and he feels like someone who's, for some, I don't know, to me a bit of a weird reason, really loyal to the people he's cast, which fair enough. I think it gets him pretty solid performances out of them. And I think there was also been a quote that like a couple of people from the Guardians films, he was asked if they would be in like something like Superman, his next film, and he said yes. So I think he'll definitely like take a couple of people along. And it's nice that like he's breaking down the like those type of lines that usually the studios will probably try to set, that people don't really cross these universes, and that's silly. It's silly. It's a fucking space movie where they punch each other and they're pink and then they're yellow. They're like, I don't know, they got like different really odd skin color looks and like things that tangle off. And there's like fucking butthole creatures that are huge, but then they're friendly if you are nice to them. Like that's this universe. And if you don't utilize it in that way, which I think someone else than James Gunn would have probably fumbled the bag, then
I guess one of the few actors that have ever been able to be in both the current MCU and the current DCEU is Sean Gunn.
Yeah, he can do it all.
Right?
Yeah.
He can do it all. Like, he's done it all. He's in, like, every single... Well, actually, he plays On-Set Rocket in Endgame and Infinity War, which is actually quite funny that he's in the suit for Rocket. But, it's interesting to see this be the wrap-up, to see where some of these actors and actresses go within the MCU and outside of the MCU, because... For most of them, as we get to the end, because obviously, when you're saying your favorite fight, sorry, I want to come back to that really quickly because I've been thinking about it for the past 3 minutes while you've been talking. The hallway fight. You know about the one at the end, right? Not the one with in the spacesuits, right?
The one where it's like all slowed down and they,
cool, sick. Because you said that you said about I think you said the fight with all the spacesuits. I'm thinking the one in the organism with Nathan Fillion, because you then spoke about Nathan Fillion. I was like, that wasn't a great fight, but it was also kind of fun. Yeah. I thought you were referring, cool, because that slowed down fight was quite fun. One of my friends did say that it did kind of feel like the fight from Kingsman, which I get because it was quite slowed down and quite actiony, so maybe they got the inspiration from there. But at the same time, it was good to see the Guardians fight like that before we never see them ever again, or at least in this rendition. Because that was one of the best set pieces
they all died
in an MCU movie since Shang-Chi.
Since Shang, you mean like the skyscraper on the scaffolding?
Like
That type
fight
of-
scenes,
Yeah. Oh, you mean like in general? Yeah. Yeah, I think Shang-Chi had some. I want to see a sequel, really. Of that
Again,
character more.
MCU fight scenes. John Wick was sick. Like 2 months ago, wherever it was. I just want to clarify that I'm not talking about every single fight scene in every single movie
No, he
in the
does.
cinemas
He
since
does.
Endgame.
This is a lie.
John Wick was great. No, I don't want you to fucking take my words out of my mouth there.
All right. But no, what do you? There's a couple of new characters that we haven't talked about yet. Mainly, I guess Kraglin is there for the new Guardians at the end there. But Cosmo, Mia Bakalova, which was something that I didn't really enjoy, if I'm being honest. I didn't really find that bit really funny.
You're being a bad boy. You're a bad boy.
Yeah, no, I at the end of my short review, I said like, "Are you a good or a bad dog?" And yeah, responses have been very enlightening. But no, it's just it feels a lot of like, let's have something set up and pay it off by the end. And this movie does that in a couple of ways with like lines that they repeat back to each other, and I'm like, no, James Gunn, you're better than this. This is generic writing. Come on, please don't do it. And he does it, and I was like, I guess I'll excuse it. It's just like, it's like narrative framework 101. You set something up. It's Chekhov's gun line that you have to repeat back to the other character because then there's emotional impact. I'm sure there's some other like specific thing that is it's not Chekhov's gun, obviously, but like, but yeah, it wasn't great on that side. But I liked the powers that she got because telekinesis. Have we gotten that before? Yes, I guess Wanda. But I didn't really like her. But this is his dog now, and it's a good dog, so cool. What do you think about the new Guardians?
Groot, Rocket, Adam Warlock,
Cosmo, and Kraglin.
Kraglin, and Random Child 1. Yeah, I think that they're all a great assortment.
Yeah, I forgot about the child.
Greatest. There
is a random
it's just some
child on
random
it,
kid who's got like like gloves.
I want Guardians 4 to open up and that child just brutally dies. I was like, oh yeah, let's pull another one in. What is the word that they say? Shmoop shmoop. It's one of the shmoop shmoops.
Yeah, one of those ones. Yeah, look, if they're going to be the future Guardians, or they're called some other random name, I don't know, but there's a certain name.
The Justice Society.
For the yeah, that's it. I get it. It was I got told that, and I was like, that's the lamest fucking name ever. Cool, new Guardians.
Yeah.
It won't be the same without Mr. Gunn, unfortunately. So I don't know what the Guardians franchise will look like. I doubt that it will be anything too crazy or anything in the near future. I feel like they will be in the expansive MCU universe.
Yeah. Like they come in as like a team, and then they're like on the sidelines, right? But not the main focus.
So I'm thinking about major Avenger team ups. They're going to get the Guardians in, things like that. But they're mainly going to be in the background and called in when necessary, but not in the limelight of the MCU. So, yeah, look, they're cool.
Get
they're
the Starger biscuit.
Great to see that they're staying around, but it's nothing without the James Gunn stuff.
Yeah. I feel the same way about it. And what do you think about the way that he leaves off the characters, basically resigning them from their roles in the MCU? Not in the MCU, but at least from the Guardians.
It's better than killing them off.
Yeah.
Because if you go to kill them off, then you can't do anything with them later on. And you don't want... and actually, another thing that I think we haven't spoken about yet is how many times I thought they were actually going to kill somebody off in this film. And I thought, wow, that'd be really powerful. And then, nope, they don't, which is unfortunate because there was a lot of weight with some of these scenes where they could actually kill them off. And it wouldn't matter because you don't need to have these characters around forever. But the way that they left the characters at the end, besides the ones that are sticking in the Guardians, so you're looking at Drax, Mantis, Nebula, who else? Star-Lord.
Was Nebula still on the team, or was she not? No, she wasn't. Right?
No, Nebula is running nowhere.
Yeah. She's running nowhere.
With that society. Mantis decides to leave to do their own thing. Yeah. Peter obviously goes back to his family, which... Again, it's a nice way to send off that character who we start off with. And then you obviously have, oh God, what's her name?
Gamora?
Gamora, yeah.
Yeah.
Gamora staying with the Ravagers. So
Mhm.
it's a good close off. I
Not for
guess.
Gamora,
I
though,
don't really have any.
I think.
Well, it's not the Gamora.
I know.
And the
I
issue
know.
with Gamora is that she's thrown in this fucking story,
Exactly.
and she does
shouldn't
nothing.
be. She
And
shouldn't be in the story.
She shouldn't be in the story.
No.
So it's like I can only say, yeah, cool. She's back where she started. There's nothing that happened with this. You think it's going somewhere when she goes through Star-Lord's stuff and gives him the picture of his grandfather, but then you find out that it's just a setup for him to go back to his family and just continue his life on Earth. But yeah, like Gamora does not need to be in this film at all. Like at all. And I guess it's a wrap up of Star-Lord's depression into his better self. And
yeah, it starts off
cool,
with like
but-
creep alcoholism, and that's never really brought back again.
Yeah.
It also feels like a bit of a waste where like how he depicts that, because there's a bunch of storylines apart from the one that's focused around Rocket that don't really get like a lot of like treated in a way, or like that we get back to. And I think the most frustrating thing was like when I expected, oh, this movie is about to end, no one has died yet, and then there's a really silly thing with like Star-Lord with Peter Quill on the ship where he almost dies, and I think if he killed him off there, that would have been like one of the worst deaths I've seen in cinema ever. I thought that was so dumb to have like that moment in there. It was unnecessary. Yeah, I like the transformations that Groot does. There's like a bunch of really powerful ones that he does where you feel like, oh, he just died. I was like, no, he's fine. He'll just grow back.
Actually,
and he does it so quickly.
Speaking of Deus Ex Machina, Jesus, Groot, what is the realm of Groot's powers? Like that man, that thing, I have no idea. In Guardians 1, like he can get slightly bigger, but in this one, I feel like the scale of Groot is just, it's wild stuff.
But I mean, apart from that, I don't know if there's anything else we want to mention. At the end, it does say Star-Lord will return. Oh no, the incredible or the amazing Star-Lord will, or something like that. It's like a joke at the end with the credits. So I mean, these characters are still around to come back for maybe major events, but probably not in that same constellation, and maybe as like they're separate entities. But I would love to see more of. I think Drax was amazing. It was like a great showcase for even the stuff that people didn't really like, where like Guardians 2 that was so focused on jokes that didn't always land, and I think they land here way well and way more consistently. I really like the stuff that he's done since, and like been in Dune, been like he's done some fucking serious acting, and he's great. So I want to see more of him, and I think this is probably Chris Pratt's best role. I think he really works well as Star-Lord, apart from maybe Parks and Rec. But he's great in this, and like I get why every single studio wanted to have him at the center of their thing, and he's just been overcast because I guess the forecast on his performance here is it's sunny, shiny, and I love it. Although it does get pretty doom and gloom at the start, which again, it's not really consistent, but I think he just works for me as like this guy who just wants to I guess rekindle the love that is not there anymore with like a person, that type of depression. I think he captures that well. So overall, I don't really have a ton of criticism apart from I guess mainly like narrative stuff, but this being just an entertainment piece, I think it nails it in the most places where you gotta nail it. So I ended up with a rating with a 4 out of 5 for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. What about you, Lachlan?
I also gave it a 4 out of 5. Shocker. Wowzers.
Yeah.
We're together on this one. Incredible.
Yes.
I love that we are agreeing on something for once, Ewan. I feel like the past few we haven't agreed on stuff.
Have we not? I don't know. I as soon as we're done recording, just like it's all a blur.
within the world of the MCU, obviously. That's what I'm talking about. Not the outside films of the MCU.
Yeah, because you
like
obviously
don't
watch any other films and you say this was the best film since Endgame. like in total,
And
nothing else.
you only watch art house cinema, so when you watch an MCU movie, you kind of
I
start dry
hate it.
reaching and wanting to vomit.
Yeah, I feel like one of those creatures. We haven't really talked about the flashback characters there. I don't know if there's much to say. I was excited that I guess Linda Cardinelli is in it because I love her
Yes,
to death.
as Linda or Lydia, whatever her name is.
Lila, and they
Lila?
just all get shot to death. That's
Yeah,
like-
that was funny.
I guess that's just all the like the brutal things that the kills that happen in this. Or I guess like at least side to main characters that die in this. But I mean, it was pretty expected. So to me, I think it could have needed like one death. Just because it kind of just worked well in the previous two, like when Groot basically died, or when what's his name, Yondu died. That was really emotional, and they wanted to do something different here, where it gives him a send off, and ultimately, I think this felt more like a send off to James Gunn more than the Guardians as a whole. But yeah, we both can recommend it, and let us know what you thought of it. Now, Lachlan, if you were to pair up this movie with another one to make a snugly tight little double feature, what would you pick?
That's a great question. What's a great send-off movie? What has never been done since it was made? You know what?
Apollo 8.
That's true. The only film I could think of double featuring this film, because it's a send-off, right? You never see these characters ever again, and we're yet to see this character ever again since this rendition of the film. And it was notoriously and infamous in the fact that the main actor did not want to play the part, so they had some of the greatest jokes in filmmaking in this film. And ever since they made this film, the family that owns the IP has refused to make another movie. I'm talking about The Cat in the Hat.
I think this is not the first time that you pick The Cat in the Hat as your double feature.
Should I just start making my double feature Cat in the Hat somehow?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, maybe the next time you do it with because he didn't have an intricate like camera setup this week. You do have a like suspiciously looking top hat on your head, and by the end of the whole review, you reveal to have a cat under your hat. And
yes,
that's what I expect next week. But no, I'm going with something else from James Gunn that didn't do super well at the box office because it did have that day and date release over on HBO Max. And that's the Suicide Squad, not the David Ayer version from 2017, but the one that we got in 2021. Another movie that got a lot of chuckles out of me, where a bunch of people do die and you don't really grow attached to them, I guess. But I had some great performances in there. It's a fun movie that I also had a great time with. So go check that one out alongside Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.